Good morning. Welcome to my channel. So my name is Tamara and I am a new flower farmer here in southern Wisconsin. We are zone 5A and our springs are super unpredictable, super wonky. I would say about 3 weeks ago, so maybe mid-April, we had a stretch of 80-degree weather, and then we got our last frost around May 3rd or May 5th. And then we got really cold and we got really wet. It's still probably only about 58 degrees right now, but we're trending to see 80s and 90s this weekend, and we are on the very last week. It's Memorial Weekend. We're the very last week of May. So it has been really challenging for me to even know what I'm doing and get my footing with becoming a flower farmer. I did take the Floret workshop. I've read a couple of books. I've been watching everybody on YouTube share their journeys, and everyone makes it look so easy, but the reality of it, at least for me, is that no matter how much knowledge you have, no matter how much you've prepped yourself, this is just one of those things that's hands-on. You really have to work with your intuition, work with the weather. It is good to probably have a solid knowledge base, but when it comes to soil, when it comes to temperature, when it comes to tilling and transplanting and seedlings and just even keeping them alive, I found it really, really challenging, but it's been so rewarding and so fun, and it's really helped a lot with my mental space and my physical energy, just to be out in nature, to get my hands dirty, to have something like the seedlings to take care of during the winter when it's super cold here. It's super overcast. We rarely get the sun, I swear, for like 6 months. So it's such a treat to have something to kind of tend to, something that's green in those months when it's super cold, super bleak, and nothing looks very hopeful. Today I am going to be doing my second round of seed starting. This is actually much more challenging than people talk about. You've already done your full first round, right? You've already taken care of them, you've fed them, you're getting ready to harden them off, and then you transplant them into the field. Like, there is, I feel like right now there is nothing worse than coming back and starting at square one again. But here we are. People really, really encourage you to do a succession plant and start doing your sunflowers every week, for 6, 7, 8 weeks until midsummer. And so I am pushing through what seems like a very, very challenging moment, and I am going to start some sunflowers and some other things that I've noticed that aren't really thriving in the garden. More specifically, I am talking about rudbeckia. That didn't take very well, phlox and asters. I'm not sure if I put them out too early or if they were too small because of the weird temperature swings, and I hadn't really been paying attention to what the weather is like in March, April, and May around here. I mean, obviously I know I've lived here my whole life, but it's not one of those things where I'm taking it day by day and actually really, really looking at it. So it was pretty challenging for me to know, like, we had the 80-degree and I was like, yeah, it's probably gonna get cold, but it'll be fine to put these things in the ground. I think we put our cool flowers in way too late, and we put our heat-loving flowers in way too early. So it's gonna be an interesting learning curve, but the things that are in the garden, they're doing okay. I just really want to practice, at least get into the practice of succession planting. So that's what I'm going to do here today. I've got about 128 sunflowers. I'm going to plant everything into 128s this go around. 72 took up a lot of dirt, and I don't know. I feel like if we're able to transfer all of the seedlings into the ground by 3 or 4 weeks, they should be fine in these plug trays. That might be way off, but that's what we're gonna do. I'm using a brand called Fertilome. It is the only potting soil that I have used that seemed to work for me. I had a lot of issues with potting soil, either not having enough nutrients because I was using a germination mix, or holding way too much water and pretty much causing so much damping off, which is where the roots just get so smothered with water that they die and the plant dies. So this is the only thing that has worked for me. I am wanting to do organic. I want to become certified organic, but I'm too scared to try anything else right now, so this is what I'm sticking with. It is not an organic brand, but it does seem to have the right mixture of drainage, and my seedlings were never too wet or too dry. I felt like it did the job, and so that's what I'm sticking with for the rest of this season. Next year we'll probably try something else, but for now this is what we're going with. I'm also using vermiculite. This is just the fine vermiculite. At my local garden center, all they had was this giant bag. It was taller than me, and that was the only other size of vermiculite they had. So I'm using the fine vermiculite. I wouldn't love to use this on every set of tray next year, because this bag is a little bit more expensive, and I think that the larger size vermiculite in the large bag would be fine. I just need to find a place that has a smaller bag size of it. So I'll be using those two things. I've got my scoop. I've got my really fancy seeding board here. It is just a box from Costco. I don't know what was in it. Organic frozen blueberries. One thing that seems to have been really challenging for me is just the tools. Like, I don't have a table to sow seeds, and I don't know, it's small stuff like that. But we're just a small business. We're just starting out, and so we're just using what we have until we start generating an income where we can purchase some of the basic tools. So I think that's one of the things that has also made it a little bit more challenging, is that we just don't have the tool sets right now, but that's all right. We're going to use what we have. Okay, so a few things. When I do my trays, I just do dry soil. I know a lot of people get it damp first and then they put the soil in. I just don't do that. I haven't had success with that. I've had way more success with putting in the dirt or putting in the potting soil and then poking holes, putting in my seeds, and then spraying with like a mister sprayer thing and getting it wet that way. I don't know why it hasn't worked for me the other way. I would like to try to do it that way, but I am too nervous to even attempt it again. I had such trouble with germination earlier in the year. It was awful. So I have found a way that works. I have found the brand of soil that I like, and I'm just going to stick with it until I am adventurous enough to try something else. So that is what I do. The second thing is I have probably, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 varieties of sunflowers that I'm going to grow. So the first one that I'm going to start out with is actually the Pro Cut Orange XL. So that is the one that is going to be my introductory sunflower. It's pretty, it's a classic sunflower. It's not super lemony, it's not really bright yellow. It's just like a classic marigold orangey saturated color. So that is one I'm going to start off with. I have 1,000 seeds in these 2 big packets. The other one is Brilliant, which I believe has a little bit more yellow to it. And then as we start approaching fall time, that's when I will be doing my bicolors, the plums, and the darker colored sunflowers. So for now, I am going to start these in 128 cell trays. I'm actually going to put them outside in this space. In a couple hours, it will get nice sun, and it will get sun for the rest of the day, probably until 4 or 5 p.m. So it'll get about, I don't know, 7 or 8 hours of light, and it'll be good temperatures out here. I know sunflowers like it really warm to get started, about 70 degrees. So it is way warmer than our basement. Our house is set probably at 67 right now. Our basement is probably 64. That's just a little bit too cold to get these guys started. Plus they'll be on the natural light cycle, and I think that will be better for them. So that is where I'm putting these guys. I will probably be putting dome trays over them. I'm not sure if I need to when they're outside, but I'm going to. We do have a lot of things like roaming around, so I think I'll put those on and put like a little rock on there, and just hopefully like the birds and the raccoons and all of the other little things that we have living around here won't get into them, but we'll see. So my husband definitely left this bag outside, which is fine. It is much has much more moisture than it usually does. Usually right from the store, it's super dry. This will be fine. I just have to be paying attention to how much moisture I put in now, because it does have, you know, I can hold its shape a little bit now. So if you need a scoop for your potting soil, the one in the chicken section works really, really good. Okay, a word for the wise. If you can go into your local garden center and get the things you need in terms of seedling, starting and germination and all of that stuff, go in and get it in person. One thing that I really messed up on is I ordered my trays and my cell trays online from multiple different companies, whoever was selling it cheapest pretty much. And the problem with that is that they don't fit into one another. So this tray is made out of a different material. It's much thinner. This is a super deep cell tray. So when I put that in, it falls in, and then as I water it, all the water starts to collect in the center. And unfortunately, it is one of the first things I'm going to need to reinvest in this coming fall. Like when I'm placing my orders for my seeds and all of that other stuff, I am going to get rid of this stuff, all of it, and I'm just going to purchase it all from one single supplier, either a single supplier online like Johnny's or Bootstrap Farmer, or I'm just gonna go down to my local garden center and buy them all together. It is a huge blunder. It was a big mistake. I'm super, super angry at myself, but things are not standard on the internet, especially when they're being made in other countries, and so cheaper isn't necessarily always better. The quality of these is actually pretty good. They're pretty durable, but I'm just not going to be able to do much with them. I will be able to put like my 3.5 inch by 3.5 inch pots where I do my dahlia cuttings. I'll be able to place those in here, and I'm able to start my ranunculus in here. Actually, the depth is actually really great because I can put about 1 inch of soil. I can put the and then I can put another inch of soil, which is really great. But other than that, I'm not sure that I have a whole lot of use for these, unfortunately. And then the cell trays are even worse. They're poor quality. They sink in. They don't fit right. The domes that go on top don't fit right. So if you are considering starting a flower farm and you are thinking about buying all of your materials on Amazon, I do advise you to either go in person and see what you're getting, or buy them all from the same company so that you can ensure that everything has a nice fit. When you bottom water, I have to fill the water up to here because the cell trays, the length of the cells are not long enough to reach. It's a mess. Do your homework before you buy anything online. So here we are. I'm just gonna poke a little hole just with my finger, and then I'm gonna come through and drop a seed. And then I actually don't cover any of my trays with soil. I just cover them with vermiculite. This stuff is notorious, at least in my experience, for forming a really nice solid crust if it is allowed to dry out, which I don't want to happen. And so the vermiculite kind of absorbs water and then releases it as the water and the moisture of the soil around it changes. So I just do that on top, and the seedlings have no problem pushing their way through the vermiculite, and the seeds are able to then root right into the soil beneath it. So I'm gonna sit here and poke 300 holes in these, and then I'm gonna get them seeded. So a little bit more confident in starting sunflower seeds. I took a sunflower webinar. It was about an hour. It was hosted by Lisa Mason Ziegler. She wrote the book Cool Flowers, which I have yet to purchase, but she did an hour-long webinar on how to grow sunflowers, when to transplant them, how they have helped grow her business. And so I'm hopeful that I can get these things to grow and to grow right. But it was a super helpful course. I do recommend that. I think it's free if you just go to her Instagram page. She might have a link, and then you just sign up, and then you have access to the webinar. So I got the holes poked. This whole process is cool and scary, and I don't know. It's different. It's different. I was worried that these seeds would be super huge, but they're actually like the size of an eraser. It is so nice working with big seeds. Oops. Some of the seeds are just so small to work with. Makes your eyes go crazy. So like I said, I'm probably going to be doing one of these trays every single week. I have about 3,000 sunflower. No, I have about 5,000 sunflowers that I ordered. And the thing about sunflowers that's pretty cool is that they're fairly, I would say, inexpensive for what you can sell them for. I think I paid about $120 for 5,000. But you can sell them for $1.50, $2 per stem, I think, depending on where you are. And if you're growing them, I know you can make them miniature and you can make them smaller and you can make them the size more so for as a bouquet filler. But if you're selling them just the regular size, probably, you know, 5 or 6 inches big, you can get quite a bit of money per stem for them. So it is a pretty good return on your dollar. And everybody, I mean, for the most part, people love sunflowers. They just love them. There's something about them that's just like happy and joyful, and I don't know, they're just great. So I'm really excited to grow this particular flower. But I know that we in this area tend to have a lot of powdery mildew. I've seen it on sunflowers that I've grown in the past. I've seen it on our zinnias that we've grown in the past. I did not get any of the DMR, the sunflowers that say DMR, and that's downy mildew resistant. So that tray is completely seeded. I'm gonna cover it with vermiculite. I'm gonna put a dome over it. I'm gonna water it a little bit, and then I'm just gonna set it out here. I know the temperatures are gonna be great the next couple of days. I don't think they take too long to germinate, and so we should be seeing some action hopefully by the end of next week. Anyways, I'm gonna finish up these other trays with the other things that I need to get going. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining me. I'm really excited to become a flower farmer. I'm really excited to start a business. I'm really excited to create a community. This is like one of the first times where I feel like, I'm doing something that I'm supposed to be doing. For a long time, I think I've felt really lost following the crowd and going into jobs and working at desks and working in places where I just didn't feel like my soul was on fire. And every day I get up looking forward to working with dirt, being in the flowers, being outside, and I am super, super grateful. So thank you for sticking around, and we will see you in the next video.